Hey, it's George Hardy from Troll 2 and Best Worst Movie and Texas Cotton, and we're here from the Cinema Psycho Show, one of the world's best podcasts. So come on out and listen, and just remember, you can't piss on Cinema Psycho's show. Oh, God.
Nailed it. That's it right there.
Oh, goody, goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Cottage, and my fellow co-hosts and filmmakers, John and Elaine Woolscroft.
Oh, come on, Brian. Too soon. Too soon.
I
needed that opening like JFK needed a bullet in the head.
Oh, really? Really?
That's okay. I don't think he's offended.
Sometimes I always think I know where you're going, and then I'm just wrong. I just never know where you're going with stuff.
Crazy.
Ends it all.
Well,
it's fine.
Well, we're on episode 128, and this is one of our topic episodes. It's going to be on movies that are created after a tragedy.
And yeah, when is the right
How
time?
soon is too soon?
That was for my tasteless JFK joke. Although I think enough time has gone by that nobody's really bothered by that. It's you know, it's funny. Abe Lincoln getting shot. Like, dude, what's wrong with you? It's not like 9/13 where you're like, the Twin Towers fell. It's
that you're
you
just
motherfucker.
Like, you know, like, you know what? I wonder if Mary Todd got splashed with blood when Abe was shot.
Yeah, dude, you shouldn't talk about this.
Dude, you shouldn't talk about her like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are basically downer movies.
And
really horrible.
Well, it's tragedy. You know, tragedy's never easy, you know?
We'll try to keep this lively, I suppose, when we're talking about something. But, you know, there's some people that question whether you should ever make a movie about certain topics and how long you should wait. And we're kind of discussing, you know, that whole idea.
Yeah.
You know, when is too soon, like, what should and should not be talked about. I'll just jump right in because I'm a little bit passionate about this. I don't think anything is off limits. And I think that while I don't think you should put a certain amount of time on when you make a movie about a certain topic, I think you need to have enough time to have proper context for it. I think context is...
That's fair.
You know, it's most important with these kind of things.
Especially because, you know, a tragedy happens. Public tragedy happens. And you need time for the facts to come out. Mm-hmm. So you're not just creating fiction to kind of fill in the gaps that the facts haven't
Or just getting it
yet.
plain wrong.
Or just get it played wrong, yeah.
Like, this is a very random example, but I will never forget when John and I were first together. We'd only been together for, I think, a little over a year, when WWE performer Chris Benoit, it was found that he and his family, you know, were found dead at their home, and the whole entity, it was Monday night, right? Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, because he had died. They'd found his body that morning.
Yeah, and it was
that.
Monday Night Raw,
Yeah.
and they did this big retrospective on his career, and there
Chris
was
is the greatest guy ever.
Yeah, well, and they ground because he was. I mean, he was beloved in the locker room. He was very respected throughout the company, and then later evidence showed that he, in fact, had killed his family and then
He went
himself.
crazy. Yeah,
and we still don't really know what happened. But I mean, you know, that's sort of a weird example, but like that's how it
Oopsie.
can go.
Yeah,
that
I
it
guess
can
we
go
should
wrong.
have
Like
praised him.
they did not wait for the facts to come out. But that makes it all the more tragic because no one in a million years guessed that like he would have done that. But having that perspective, like that's what John means. Like that's really important to like have a little bit of a viewpoint on what has passed so that we know all the facts and we can process it accurately and thereby transform it into art.
Well, and heads up, everybody, if you want to play a drinking game, we'll probably do it every time we mention 9/11. But
9/11.
But before we get into 9/11, I think when we talk about context and having enough time to like fully understand, there's no better example than the Vietnam War.
Yeah, that's true.
And there are two specific examples of right after the war had ended that went the different spectrums in the wrong way. Deer Hunter, while still a fabulous movie, portrayed the Vietnam, or people from Vietnam as just complete monsters who made people play Russian roulette against each other, which is completely untrue.
Yeah.
There's nothing to back this up, but they wanted to create a war as hell feel, and a lot of people criticized this movie for just portraying human beings as monsters, even if they are our enemy in war. And then there's another movie, Coming Home, that is a saccharine hippy dippy movie where it's like it's an anti-war movie that's kind of going against like what people really went through there. Like they're using it as a paralyzed veteran, but just to try to create an anti-war message, which is almost insulting to those that were involved. Some people would say that with enough time, like Platoon was, there are some people that will give it to Platoon who went to Vietnam that hated it. And then there are some people that went to Vietnam who nobody likes war, but they're proud of it. It'll say Full Metal Jacket.
Right.
But the one thing those two movies had is they had a decade after the war was over, before they were made,
or even
to put things in proper
movie
context.
Like War on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Where it's almost like you're getting the full spectrum of what propaganda led to people believing that they had to go to war. They experience war, they come back, and they can't come to grips with what the propaganda led them to.
And that's an interesting word that you would use there, Brian, propaganda, because you could say that Coming Home and Deer Hunter, while both very good movies in their own right, were propaganda-ish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even though I don't think Deer Hunter meant to be, but it was by being so overly simplistic in its viewing of the enemy. But you get that with 9/11. Take a shot. The first film that comes out, people don't remember this, was a made-for-TV movie that portrayed George W. Bush as Jesus and Dick Cheney as his stalwartly, guy that stood
Darth
by
Vader?
his side. Yeah. And it is but it was the kind of thing that comes out right after 9/11, right? Because we're all patriotic. We can do no wrong as a country. And now you watch this thing and you want to throw up.
It reeks of nationalism.
And
it does.
I apologize. I can't remember what the name of it is, but it came out, I think, just even a few months after the terrorist attacks, early 2002.
I remember what you mean. I can't think of it either.
And it was just, it was a made-for-TV thing. It was just a hot mess, and it was, in a lot of ways, propaganda, because we just needed, as a country, to be to come together. But that's not. This is why I'm pushing context. I'm going to say that a million times in this episode, is that you need to understand what you're making and everything that goes into that. But I remember seeing trailers for United 93 and people yelling too soon in the audience. And this is, what was that? About 7 years?
Yes.
6 or 7.
It was not
years.
that long removed from it. And I think the biggest issue, whenever movies are based around tragedies that are recent, is that ultimately the movie industry is a business. So that means that someone is profiting off of the story of this tragedy. And I think that is where people find offense.
And I think it's hard to reconcile that sometimes.
It is very hard to reconcile that.
Because you can't make art in a vacuum. It has to cost money and it has to make money. And I think that's where things can get a little murky.
I remember watching the movie Elephant, that
the Gus Van Sant
Gus Van Sant movie about basically Columbine. And it was a fictionalized account of Columbine, but I mean, basically
clearly inspired.
You watch it, you're like, this is fucking Columbine.
Yeah.
And I don't. That movie came out, I think, in what, 2003? 2003?
Yeah.
So it's not that far removed from, Columbine happening in, what was it, 99?
Columbine?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 99.
99.
April 20th.
April 20th, 1999.
Yeah. So but I think the only reason why people did go up in arms about it was because it was fictionalized.
Right. It didn't. The characters weren't Eric Harris and Dylan Klugel.
Yes.
Yes. And I don't know, I think that's a line that people like to draw as well when victims are people that were too young to defend themselves. Like, they're children in that circumstance, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
So do you use real people in those scenarios? Because I remember, I think it was Nat Geo or Discovery had a documentary on Columbine, and now this is a documentary, and they're being, very even-handed, but they're talking about the kids that they were pulling out from desks in the library and just shooting in the face, and they're naming these kids. Could you imagine if they did that in a dramatic way, in a fictional film, and they're like, hey, that's Teddy Jenkins, shoot him, and the family of Teddy Jenkins has to relive that with their son being murdered on camera, with a real person's name.
Ultimately, they would have... you need to get permission for that sort of thing too. So that means Teddy Jenkins' family would have to say, yeah, we're fine with that.
Yeah, shoot our son in the movie.
Shoot our son in the movie, which I don't think they ever do.
Yeah.
I don't think so, unless it's one of these things where it's like, oh, that person died a hero.
Yeah, but that's another thing too. Yeah, heroicism as compared to victimization.
Yes.
You look at United '93. That movie did well, and people were like, "Oh, this is okay because they took the terrorists down." You know, they saved the day. They saved so many lives. They're heroes. And one of the widows said, "I was actually mad that it came out so soon, only because they didn't get to use the real audio from the black box in the movie." She was so honored that they made the movie. She took the opposite route and said, "I wish that they could have gone further."
Yeah.
In honoring my husband and what he did on that flight.
I still say I can see more offense in it because someone's making money off of your dead relative.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, and that's tough to reconcile too, because like, you know, how do you draw that line? Like, do you avoid like the real person's likeness? You know, do you try to change certain things so that it's them but not completely
Well, that's
them?
what I'm saying.
Like,
I think that's why a movie like
that?
Elephant can do what it did within as short of a time span between when the event happened and when the movie came out, because even though the tragedy is showcased, it's not showcased as a nonfiction element, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It showcased for what were some of the reasons why this happened, what were some of the situations that happened, how did this affect the community, and that's ultimately, what the narrative that you craft is. It isn't necessarily like, oh yes, let's show off this whole historical thing that happened with these real people, and let's make sure that we make money off of this too. Because as I said, Hollywood is in this for money. They're not in this for any sort of grandiose idea.
Well,
that's it.
Part of the problem is that people in this country don't read and they don't go to documentaries, right? So the only way they're going to see these events depicted is through a fictionalized, based on a true story version of that.
Yeah.
You know, look at Welcome to Morrowind, which is not like that controversial, but people don't realize that movie, while it's bombing at the box office, was based on a documentary that nobody saw.
Yeah.
Well, it's based on a true story. There was a documentary. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Nobody saw it. So if you only do these films or these topics as documentaries, there's no way to. And Brian, I agree with you, but there's no way to honor them either if you look at it in a positive way.
Yeah.
Right at the same time United 93 came out, there was World Trade Center, and that movie was really designed. I mean, it's a horrible movie. Thanks a lot, Oliver Stone. But it was to honor the firefighters that freed people. It wasn't just to revel in torture, sadness porn of the two towers coming down. It was about the people that ran into the towers.
No, that one
people.
came out a couple years later.
Were they a little separated?
Yeah,
I thought
they
they
were.
were like almost the same.
No, I meant the sadness porn.
Oh yeah,
And reveling in misery. Yeah, that was 9/11 in 2017
oh okay.
with Charlie Sheen.
Oh, Charlie Sheen's documentary about how his
Charlie Sheen, Whoopi
playing
Goldberg,
bombs
Gina
in the building,
Gershon,
and yeah,
Luis Guzman.
yeah.
You know, your full cast of
You
Hollywood
guys had
rejects.
me at Charlie Sheen.
Just your Hollywood rejects.
Charlie Sheen is too soon.
I don't know how the hell they got Whoopi Goldberg in that.
No boy.
No, neither.
She was just like, yeah,
She made Theodore Rex, the
oh God,
the T-Rex cop
yeah,
movie.
she did.
You mean human masterpiece, Theodore Rex? Culmination of the artistic persuasion, Theodore Rex.
Well, what about like when things are used in certain genres they shouldn't be used in?
Okay.
For example, as we've mentioned multiple times in the show, people were up in arms that they would use the Holocaust in an X-Men movie. Yeah. That,
See,
6
I don't have a
million
problem
Jews
with
murdered
that.
is not
I don't
fodder for comic books.
Here's okay. I think I have some standing,
Some hot takes.
Okay.
some standing on this. So I've mentioned this before, but my heritage is Jewish. I'm not necessarily into religion, to be honest. Don't really care about it. I think it causes more harm than good. But my heritage is Jewish. So I was not offended at all by that. If anything, what it did for X-Men was give more depth to the character of Magneto.
Do you think it raised the stakes, Brian?
Well, not just raise the stakes, but it gave more of a reason why he would be doing what he wants to do. Because whenever you read the comic books, I remember even watching the X-Men cartoon series, I was always like, what's the deal with Magneto? Why does he constantly always hate humans? Why is he so much into this whole Brotherhood of Mutants thing? And he's always against Charles Xavier, because Charles Xavier is just like, yeah, we could get along with humans, but you never really got a reason why. He was always just mustache twirling the whole entire time.
We're the future, Charles, not them.
But the point is
Magneto.
having that scene, having that opening scene where we realize that Magneto has experienced the worst tendencies, the worst xenophobia that humanity can embody, gives a reason that basically categorically changes his entire being in one single scene. It just makes him more of a richer character. Because at that point, I'm just like, yeah, I can see why he would really not like humans. I can see why he would be more militaristic regarding it.
So is it fair to say that you already do like X-Men, and that kind of fits in with like you as a person? I mean, could you see the point that some people might be making where it's like, it's not bloody Shakespeare, like we're not, creating high art here, and is it possibly a really intense subject matter for only the payoff of a comic book movie, which some people may like look down on,
Well, I mean, I can't really speak to the people who would look down on a comic book movie. I'm looking at it more from if I'm trying to find a reason why Magneto would, have this core belief.
And I can see that. I can see what you're saying.
Humanity is scared, that humanity does not like differences, that humanity acts on its worst impulses when the other comes out. That really in our history, we've had a couple of those instances that have, categorically changed the way our culture is. And I think the Holocaust is one of those. So it makes sense to me that he would be someone who survived that and who survived the worst tendencies. And because of that, and he sees the new rise in the mutants coming up as another reason why humanity would go down that path.
It does certainly
and his
explain
reason why he would be so adamant against fighting humans. So for me, it made more sense.
But what if it wasn't that X-Men movie? What if it was Michael Bay's Ninja Turtles and Bebop was in a concentration camp when he was still a human?
But was he?
No, but just what if?
What if?
That doesn't make any sense.
My point is that, like, wouldn't that be offensive because it's just such garbage?
Well, I think it also depends a lot on...
Now I'm thinking about Bebop.
No. Well, think of it also this way, too. Okay, you're trying to also put in that element into a shit film when the first X-Men is not a shit film. It's actually a well-crafted film. I think it's.
Yeah.
So does that matter if the movie's good or not?
I do think though, because obviously, I don't know Bryan Singer. I've seen his other work, and he's not always the best of people.
You'd be like, "Oh, my name's Brian too," and he'd touch your penis, and he'd be like, "Are you 15?" You'd be like, "No," and he'd be like, "Never mind."
That was savage as shit. Nice.
Or that, but what I'm saying is, for me, the first X-Men has layers in terms of its character development.
Yeah.
And, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it doesn't got any of that shit.
Right.
It's very much one-dimensional, not even two-dimensional, one-dimensional in terms of its character development. So it really makes no sense why that would be in there. Yeah. And that would honestly be more offensive because, like, you're not even giving any depth to the character. So
the quality of the art matters.
Yes, absolutely.
I think more than quality, just to go off of that, I think intention really matters.
Okay.
I think what you're intending to do.
Can you speak more to that, John?
Yeah. If your goal, like United 93, because to go back to that, 9/11, there it is again.
9/11.
Is that I remember seeing some of the, and of course his name escapes me now, the director of that film. He did the Bourne films, and but they started doing another series of trailers where he pointed out, like, he is just talking to the camera, saying, my goal is to show how heroic these people were and how they took their own lives selflessly to save possibly millions of people, because we don't know where that plane was headed, depending on where. But if I don't have a problem with it either, but I'm also not Jewish, and I also saw the movie when I was like 13. But I could see how some people could say, my family members who died in the Holocaust or Holocaust survivors, it was not intended to give your character that controls lug nuts, a character growth.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
And-
I definitely I get that side of it too. I think there has been enough time between when the Holocaust happened and now that we know all of the scenarios, that we know all the context, as you mentioned earlier in the show, that you could use that in a fictional sense. I also don't think that there's any reason why you have to only keep real situations in movies that are based around reality and fictional situations only with fictional reality.
Yeah.
There was a movie that came out, I think it was called Rain on Me. Remember that one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In which it was Adam Sandler, and it wasn't a comedy.
Right, yeah, it was with Don Cheadle. It was
Yes,
one of his,
and it used 9/11 as a plot point. And I don't think anyone really was up in arms over it. It was a great movie, but
even better than that, there was a movie, Remember Me, starring Edward from Twilight.
Oh my God, that movie was so bad.
And the movie has nothing to do with any tragedy through the whole thing. It's like, why is the movie called Remember Me? The last scene in the movie, he just goes to the World Trade Center and he's like, "Hey, buddy, do you know what today is? Yeah, it's 9/11. Thanks." And he walks in and they pan up to World Trade Center. And it's like, why? Why did
Makes
you do
absolutely
that?
no sense. And in that case, I think that's a misuse. Like
That is a misuse,
because your movie sucked and it hinged on something terrible happening
But
at the end.
I
It's
think
cheap.
with Rain on Me, I mean, it's basically about the man's family dies in 9/11, and it's that real tragedy.
How much it messes.
Messed him up, and it's his recovery from that. So I think, well, I see that people who actually directly, survive those real tragedies would have a problem with it. I could see that. I really can. I think in a movie where you're using that tragedy to kind of tell something else about the character that isn't superficial, that's very much about their core being, I think it's okay.
Yeah, and it's tough because
And it is tough. I'm not saying it's easy.
Nobody in this room lost somebody on the Titanic.
No.
My dad didn't go to Vietnam, and he wasn't all messed up from it. We didn't have anybody. Brian, I'm pretty sure you didn't have anybody in 9/11.
No.
Yeah. So we don't have all those things that are that connected to us.
And it might make a difference if we did.
Oh, yeah,
and
I guarantee it would.
If I was in Columbine and then 2 years later a movie came out like Columbine in 3D, I might be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? I was shot at in my school and you made a movie out of it?
Interestingly, there was
John
a school
Travolta's
shooting at
next
your
film,
school, John.
Columbine in 3D.
Oh my.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm Eric Harris. Oh my God. No one
Wow.
liked me.
Wow. Oh God.
He just turns
Too
the camera.
I'm kind of sad we don't have clamor anymore
No.
because that would have been the clamor.
turns to the camera at the beginning and says, "Hi, I'm Eric Clare."
Well, oh no, they do like with Army Hammer and Social Network where
Yeah.
they had him play like twins. He's with Eric Harris and Dylan Cleveland.
He just wears different wigs.
Oh God.
You guys got real off the rails.
This is the
Travolta's
last
wig-
episode of the Cinema Psycho Show.
Yeah,
Travolta's wig budget is.
I
just
hope we didn't think
enormous.
we were going to do like a real thoughtful take on this subject.
No, Nick Cage. Nick Cage is Eric Harris. He's still in Cleveland. This is Face Off too.
Taking a deep
God.
breath and trying
In
not to
3D?
choke you.
What happened? We had a very thoughtful discussion
did.
that just
Did. No, so-
completely derailed. Lane, get us back.
Well, because right before you guys went into the train to Crazy Town, I asked you, John.
Yeah.
You did go to a school that had a school shooting. I mean, how
Yeah.
did that change the landscape for you? I mean, did you experience any of that being as a part of the culture?
In terms of like how the school operated.
Yeah, because I mean, there was
a lot of things changed. We got like those we had metal detectors for a while. We had the you had to beep to get into the school. Like there were the cameras.
But I mean, attitude wise, I mean, you had a teacher who was shot and killed. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a huge deal. I mean, like there was a before and an after of that event. I imagine you would have been what, 6th grade?
6th grade, yeah,
Because it was the 8th grade dinner dance.
yeah.
Okay, that it had happened. So I mean, like you weren't untouched by one of these tragedies. Interestingly,
Well, and if they made a movie on Andrew Worst, I don't think I would be bothered by that. Now, I also wasn't at the shooting,
no, but your best friend was.
right? But I don't know. Like I said, I don't have a problem with it as long as the intention is good and the context is clear.
Well, I think it's hard to say because I think it's so individualized. It's so personal, because I remember too, in Edinburgh when we were looking for our wedding venue, in 2008, when we were planning to get married the next year, I had done some looking around, and the place where the 8th grade dinner dance where the shooting took place, it's a venue. It's a very popular venue. It's a very beautiful place.
That's why they had a dance.
The family that owns it's very very kind.
I'm not
and
familiar with this shooting, by the way.
Oh,
It was,
wow.
James
Edinburgh.
W. Parker Middle School in Edinburgh, PA. Yeah, he a kid brought a gun to the school dance, injured a
grade
bunch of
dinner
people, killed one teacher.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, shot a number of people, but killed a science teacher, right?
Yeah,
Mr. Gillette?
worst.
No, I meant the teacher.
Oh, John Gillette. Yeah,
John Gillette.
sorry. Yeah,
Right, and he died. He was a teacher at the school, and he was protecting the students, and he was killed. And like I said, this venue, it's still someplace that's there now. It's a great area.
Yeah.
And it was on my list, of places to look at, and I remember, because it was not a stretch to think that John's best friend would be in the wedding. And I said, dude, I said, I'm looking at this place. I said, would that be weird for you? Is that okay? Because I mean, to the point where his best friend, like, he was pulling tables up, like, to protect people from the gunshots. I mean, like, he was in the thick of it, and John's friend didn't care. He was like, no, dude. He's like, it's whatever, fine. He's like, I've been there since, no big deal. But that's not everybody, like, that's so individualized when you have, like, I think it matters, like, how not only close you touch a tragedy, but also how you respond to tragedy. And there's no right or wrong way to respond to tragedy.
Well, I mean, we just had a tragedy in our own hometown.
We did.
Not too long ago.
That's true.
We had Tree of Life, which
That's
was
true.
shot up by a crazy fucking Nazi. And that was down the street from where I work.
Yeah, that was so
Like,
close. to
literally
Chatham.
down the street from where I work.
And what if
So
Hollywood
close.
got into pre-production on a movie about that right now? How would you guys feel?
I would say
Too soon. I would say too
I would
soon.
say
Too
too soon.
That's the line. I think I would say too soon.
I would
honestly.
say too soon because, as you said, we don't know all the facts. We don't know all the circumstances of that tragedy. And plus, honestly, I think there needs to be time to grieve.
I think that there does need to be time, but it's hard to say how much time, because I feel like enough time has passed for us to reflect on JFK. But, like, I don't know, I still don't like hearing those jokes, and I don't like those, like, horrible Halloween costumes where it's like,
Sorry. For the
Was
top
that
of the
you?
show.
Was that you?
No, she said jokes about JFK, and that was the top of the show.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I think
I was trying to make a sarcastic point.
in your
but-
case, I mean, like, that was a very vague joke, but I mean, like, some really crass ones, or two, like, these people who have, like, a Jackie O Halloween costume and they're covered in blood.
Yeah,
like,
that
that's
one's
fucked
fucked-
up.
that's fucked up.
That's real fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, that's not okay.
But
Not to me, anyway.
it's been 50 years now,
I know.
so a lot of people do overlook it. Like, oh, dude, you're crazy.
But
You're
what does that
outrageous."
tell you, though? I mean, like, for me, like, I think 50 years isn't quite long enough,
I think it's also the magnitude of the tragedy does have an effect.
Yeah, I could
So
see
that was
that,
a
Brian.
president. That was a president that was the leader of the country. Remember where you can say the president was the leader of the country?
I'm not familiar.
I'm not familiar with
no,
that.
I don't remember.
Honestly, that kind of died for me on 11/9/2016.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that was the leader of the country who represented our ideals, and he was brutally shot in front of the public.
Yeah.
And it was captured on film. And that sort of thing, it sticks with people, I think, a little bit longer.
I agree.
Then I hate to say it, but unfortunately, more shootings that maybe are just like a school or not just the president. You know,
I don't know. I think it depends on. I guess it depends because you think about a tragedy where there's a mass shooting. I mean, that touches every life that was lost and every life that life touched. So, I mean, that can extrapolate pretty far. And especially if it's a centralized community, you know, something like Tree of Life here, I mean, like that rocked the entire Jewish community of the entire city of Pittsburgh and every Pittsburgher, you know?
Yeah, it did.
Well, and we talk about intention, and you mentioned JFK being assassinated. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people were up in arms with Oliver Stone because he was making a movie that suggested that the death of this president was because of the United States government.
Yeah, or that it was a mass conspiracy.
So his intention was to say that the government killed its own sitting president. The people, to them, that was too soon. Not that, you can't make a movie on JFK in 1991.
You can't make that movie.
You can't make that movie. And that's what people were so up in arms about, you know.
Yeah. That movie is very conflicting for me. Because, like, the part of me that likes a good, thriller, it's a great movie.
It's a masterclass in editing.
But that's what I'm saying. No, but what I'm saying is, like, if you are someone who loves a great thriller, edge-of-your-seat thriller, that movie is for you right there. Yeah. But the subject matter, the trying to play off that everything in this is fact, that is the problem I have with it, because it just it basically adds credence to the tinfoil hat wearing community that believes the government's going to get me, and Earth is flat.
I got a flu shot now. The government microchips in my blood.
They're going to microchip me. Yeah. Although I did have my Alexa record me the other day. Have you ever had it announce?
You just triggered mine.
Did I just?
She's trying to figure out what's going on.
But I had it actually announce. Have you ever had that happen?
Oh yeah,
that's weird.
What do you mean announce?
It. I said Alexa announce, and it announced the last 5 seconds.
Oh yeah, well the thing is, it's listening all the time, and they say that they're not, but they are.
But why does it do that?
Because they're monitoring us.
See?
I don't.
The thing is, it's listening all the time, and they say that
I don't know, audience, if you could hear that or not, but in the corner of the room, the
Alexa did repeat exactly what happened.
Stop saying her name. Stop saying her name. She'll awaken.
Sorry.
It's like Candyman.
But so I guess, we talked about a bunch of different scenarios and different films and everything. But just to kind of come to a consensus here, when is enough time? And is there anything that's off limits to you guys? Lane, what do you think?
I think that the time is variable, dependent on the situation. I think it depends is probably the most strong conclusion I can draw from something like this, because it depends on who is affected. It depends on what happened. And it depends on its ramifications in society too. For me, there's different levels to this. I would never make a Sandy Hook joke about the children that were murdered, because that was senseless violence and that was awful. But I could make a bitter, hateful joke about how these children were murdered and nothing was changed about gun laws in our country. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There's shades of what you can do, and you could make a movie about, say, gun laws and gun control in the face of this tragedy without making it about a reenactment of what happened there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think it depends, like we said, on intent. And I'm not sure that necessarily anything is totally off limits, because murdered children is the worst thing I can think of offhand.
That's pretty bad.
But there's shades of it that you can have up for discussion. But I think that the limit has to be at what you want to say and what you have to say, and if you have anything interesting to say. If you don't have a unique point of view and your point of view does not make the world a better place, and you are not contributing to the fabric of our art and our culture, maybe just don't. Maybe just leave the tragedies alone.
Look at you, Michael Bay.
Yeah. Pearl Harbor.
Oh.
It wasn't too soon. It was made by a complete joke.
My high school history teacher was so stupid, he made us go see that shit for class. It was required.
What?
We got to miss school to do it, which was dope. But we actually
I would
had
have
to
just
go.
gone into another movie instead.
Right? I don't think anything else was good. Was good that week. I don't even think it was worth it.
Yeah. To answer your question, I too think it's variable. I also think it depends on the movie. If the movie is done with dramatic intention to build characters, and it tries to take liberty with how those characters get to point A and B, what crafts them. I can see a point where using tragedy, real tragedy, as a building block for that character. I can. But as I said, I think it depends on the movie. That's why, the first X-Men, in my opinion, it was okay to use the Holocaust. But if you're going to have Bebop in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it wouldn't work. That's my only difference,
Yeah, I think it comes down to intention and who you're trying to honor, and you have to have a deft hand. Like when we reviewed Cool Cat Saves the Kids, and he brings up school shootings, even though his intention was, with incorrect information, to teach kids how to be safe in a school shooting situation. All I could think was, no.
You're so bad at this.
You're so bad at this. Do not do this.
Like, nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Hey, kids, I'm going to teach you about the Holocaust. Yay! Like, no.
Like greater men than you have failed.
No, please, for the love of God, Daddy Derek. We don't need Cool Cat Saves the Jews, okay? We don't need that.
Whoa.
It's okay,
don't
folks.
need
He's Jewish.
that.
He's Jewish. This guy. But yeah, and I would say, unless,
Be like, okay, Jews, come with me. I'll convert you to Christianity.
Yay! Hey.
That was a really good Cool Cat. I'm upset right now.
But I would say like 5 years. I think 5 years gives enough context for things, and if something needs to be talked about sooner than that, I think in today's day and age, you can actually do documentaries that people will go see.
But you better have some talent. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you better have some talent. Yeah.
I think 5 years is still too soon.
I think it is too, Brian.
I think it's too soon because even after 5 years, not only do you have to wait for all the facts to come out, you also have to wait for the people to mourn.
And perspective.
And gain perspective and even begin recovery.
Decade minimum.
So was United 93 too soon?
I think it was.
Yeah, I do. Okay. Because the way I look at it is we're still feeling the effects of 9/11 today. Okay, we still are. Even after, Bin Laden's been taken out, even after all the people have been put in Abu Ghraib and all those places, we're still feeling those effects in the wars we're at. So it's never quite shaken out.
We're still in Afghanistan. 17 and a half years later.
17 and a half years later. So even now, I don't know if it's necessarily right to have that, because that point, that single event changed the course of history for our country to the point where now we got an orange idiot in the White House.
Yeah.
Oh, well, wait a minute. We don't know that because the government's been shut down for, where are we on now, 14 days?
But, just in conclusion, I think if your intention is right and you're honoring the right people and it's done after as much information as you can get comes in and it's done by somebody with skill, I don't think anything's off limits for films. Now, if you wanted to make, Leslie, you said if you want to make a Sandy Hook movie, my first question would be why? Like,
and
what
what's
are you
your
trying
intention,
to do
right?
here?
What's your end game?
Because that would be the worst movie ever. But
I can see them fictionalizing that, just like with Elephant.
Well, like I said, with the point,
Yeah. What's the point? What are you trying to accomplish here? And I would never censor and say you can't ever make a movie about this or
But just like tell me your plan so I feel better about it.
I think it's also a matter of what, as I said, what's the point of that movie? Are you trying to showcase how easy it is to get guns, how we don't pay attention to mental health in this country? If that's the case, then okay.
How these families came together after the fact.
Okay.
Like,
I'll be honest with you. Like, okay, it's a horrible tragedy.
Yeah.
But if some good is going to come out of showcasing that, okay. I would say maybe you make it fictionalized. Maybe you take those events and you fictionalize them. That way, the parents don't have to see their kids being shot.
Maybe.
And I don't think this is absolutely necessary, but just to kind of build on too is if you give some level of your proceeds to the cause that you're discussing, like,
I feel like
I think that helps
little.
quite a bit.
Oh
too.
yeah, it does.
It's not necessary, but like if I found out that 5% of the budget or the profit that United 93 went to like 9/11 widows or something like that, I would
makes a difference.
Oh,
Or maybe the firefighters who are still dealing with health problems.
Because then it doesn't
they
seem like
went
you're profiting
into
off a
the World Trade
tragedy.
Center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If your profit margin off a tragedy is a little lower, I feel a little better about it.
Yep. No, I get you. Good talk. Good talk.
Good talk, kids.
Yeah, gang.
That was a nice rap, gang.
It was. Lane, where can they find you at on the Twitter machine?
You can at me at LA_Twitter on Twitter.
LA_Twitter.
Or underscore Croft. LA_ Croft. We were talking about the Twitter machine. I was getting fancy, guys.
Okay.
Got fancy.
LA Twitter in the
Got
house.
fancy and tongue-tied. My bad.
John?
On Twitter, J Twitter. No, the Unreal J Wolves.
Fuck you.
You can find me at Brian Content. I also run the Psycho Show page. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, at Psycho Show. You can also find us on the Epicast Network at epicastnetwork.com. If you have a favorite movie or question you want to throw our way, you can contact us at cinemapsychoshow.com. And make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and iTunes and catch a new episode available every Sunday.
When is it too soon to make a movie about the tragedy of Daniel Baldwin's career?
Epicast.